Welcome to the Dwayne Kerrigan Podcast, and I'm your host, Dwayne Kerrigan. With 35 years in business and close to 30 ventures across 12 industries, I've seen a lot. Amid the celebrity allure of entrepreneurship, many exceptional entrepreneurs remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated. Everybody, we have Mara Dorne here, and actually, how this came about was my wife actually saw you, and then she's like, oh, you gotta listen to this girl, and she's like such an amazing woman, and then she started doing some research on you and all that kind of stuff, and she says to me, she's like, how would you like to have a woman on the podcast that is eclipsed $1 billion in revenue in her sales career? And I'm like, okay, would I ever? And so that's really actually how this came about.
Oh, I already love your wife. Where is she? Is she there with you?
She's not here with me, no, but we own several businesses, and she's very involved in our businesses. She's she's the chief operating officer of our company. So I get to slouch off and do podcasts, and she is kind of operating everything. So she's like super brilliant. So welcome to the podcast, guys. I'm going to just do a quick, I'll do a quick kind of bio, but let you fill in the gaps. But Mara kind of, it's a rags to riches story, really. Like in 2008, you and your husband, basically went broke. His business had lots of trouble, like a lot of other people. And you had to recreate yourself. You became the regional sales leader for a company called US Health Advisors. You eclipsed $1 billion in revenue, in sales revenue, before you're the age of 40. I believe you have a team of somewhere around 1,500 agents that work underneath you. You're an author of a book called Perfect Imperfections. You're a speaker, you're a coach, you're a podcast host as well. It's like you're all things in one. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I think you just make me sound better than what I actually really am, to be honest.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know. We're gonna find out, because I'm looking forward to this conversation. And as I said, this is a very casual environment, and I'm happy to. I don't even ever walk into a podcast with one question, let alone a slew of questions. So I'm happy to kind of take this wherever you want to take it, and let Grace show up.
I love it. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's go.
So what I was really curious about was, obviously when I explained the story about my wife bringing this to me, and I'm like, wow, how does one do $1 billion in revenue, before the age of 40? But I'm trying to understand, which I couldn't glean from some of the research I did, was what was the time frame that you did this in?
No, yeah, this was a period of time. It was a long period of time. And when it's $1 billion in sales revenue, it's team sales. So, I mean, it's not as glorious. I was the second person ever to eclipse it, both female, which is crazy because it's a male dominated industry. So it took about, I would say, what am I, 17 years in? So probably I would say 5 years ago. So it took 10 to 12 years to do it. And it wasn't just me. I wish
Mara,
I could
that's
say
a pretty short time, though. That's a pretty short time to do $1 billion in revenue. And I totally get it. Well, I mean, it takes a village, right? But
yeah.
So yeah, sorry to interrupt, but that's amazing.
Thank you. I don't think it sounds that amazing. It's funny when you're like, oh wow. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, yeah, it took a long time to get there, but it wasn't always the easiest journey either. So thank you.
Well, so do you mind just kind of like, you've got 1,500 agents that probably, I guess, rolled up over time. What was kind of, just walk me through a little bit, like maybe let's help the listener understand kind of what it is that you guys offer as a service and a product. And then I'm really keenly interested in, and here's one of the reasons why. We're kind of like in this post-COVID world. I'm seeing a lot of people that have these businesses that really thrived in COVID. And then all of a sudden it's like, they set their 2024 slumped a little bit, 2025 slumping a lot more than 2024. And they're not hitting sales targets. They're not hitting revenue growth. They're not doing some of the things that they want to do. And so I think hey, what could be a better time to have somebody like you on the show to pick your brain?
Yeah, coincidentally, that's funny that you are even talking about this because it's like an ongoing conversation about the post-COVID and people. And, I think it's just a different caliber of people. I know that sounds terrible, but, post-COVID for sales, all of a sudden in our business, it was never remote. At least that's not the model that we specifically work in. I mean, sales in general is about energy and synergy. And that's the way that I built my culture, was based in-house sales, meaning that anyone that wanted to do it remote that I know of was never successful. It just wasn't a successful model to be in. But post COVID, all of a sudden, because remote became a thing, all of a sudden you see, even in my industry, they want to do remote. That's the big thing. I want to do it remote. So whenever I'm selling the opportunity, the remote isn't like, we'll offer it. But the truth is for me, I believe wholeheartedly, you're never going to be as successful unless you're an anomaly, which is like a very few, a dime a dozen. But you're not going to be as successful if you're brand new, kind of green, and you're doing it remote. You need to be in office. The culture's there, the energy, the synergy. You're learning from different people. Yeah, you'll have your parking lot powwow people, but overall, you got to be in office. So it happened to our business too, where all of a sudden we're in 2025. We had growth every single year. We're growing. We're still growing as far as numbers wise, but as far as the writing agent base, it's shrinking because people want to be remote.
Okay, so can you just fill in the gaps for the listener on what it is that you guys, the product and service, so that they can kind of understand what it is that the interaction looks like?
Absolutely. So I work for United. I work for a United Healthcare company. US Health Advisors is a United Healthcare company. And who we focus on is basically off exchange. So we're not affiliated with the marketplace, or known as the Obamacare. So what we do is we are basically looking for people that want insurance. They just want it at a more affordable rate. So this way they're not forced into paying for something that they don't need and they don't want. It's a fully underwritten product where people qualify to get on, kind of like, car insurance. Healthier you are, the better rates you get. It's like kind of same deal. So that's what I do. And focus completely on health insurance. That's our bread and butter, health insurance. We do have comprehensive plans in that you can add dental, you can have vision, you can have a little portion of a life insurance benefit, very small, but that's not our primary focus. But our primary focus is health insurance off the exchange. So we can sell throughout the entire year where we're not subject to the Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act laws.
Okay. And then are you selling this to individuals or companies?
Individuals, families, typically companies that are under 20.
Okay. And then we might have to talk after the podcast because I just bought a business in Florida. So anyways.
I can definitely educate you on what's going on with the laws, because the laws are also really funny what's going on, and just the market is shifted. But, sales is sales. That's the reality of it. I've met so many salespeople, whether they're in health insurance or they sell real estate or whatever, gadgets and widgets, whatever the case may be. But it's funny because I would say the overall salesperson mentality has shifted from that post-COVID, and which is crazy because our business, the health insurance industry, thrived during COVID, right? Because people's awareness were heightened. Everybody was like, oh, I'm dying. I need to get health insurance. And at that point, we were one of the only companies that can provide comprehensive coverage because remember when COVID happened, it was outside of the open enrollment period. So now you're March 2020, everyone's freaking out. They're going to die and they need coverage, right? Everybody's like, oh, I need this. So we did phenomenal. We had it sounds terrible, but we had our best sales year, 2020, 2021, 2022. We kept going, we're moving and grooving. All of a sudden now the shift has really been with the people, the mentality of the people. I don't want to work as hard. I want quality of life. I want work-life balance. I want to do remote work. So so I don't know if that's offering much advice to your audience, but one thing I can tell you is that the remote thing sounds great in theory, but even for me, working remote or working at home, I'm much more successful in an office environment.
Well, yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And so here's one I would love to just tackle right out of the gate, if you don't mind. But this whole, what you just said about like the wanting to work remote, this new change of, more freedom, more sense of freedom, if you will, that, people don't want to do the commutes, whatever that looks like, whatever the reasoning is behind it. how do you, I mean, I have so many conversations with business owners, and part of them, it's like a double-edged sword, right? You want to be able to, provide your employee or your partners or the people, your team members, and an opportunity to live the life that they desire most. But you also have a responsibility to the business to, make it work, make it grow, offer, the best possible service to your customers. And there's right now, it feels like as a result of COVID and that period of time, that there's this kind of conflict, if you will. And I'm just curious, like, how are you guys handling that, especially in the sales environment? And what are you guys going through, and what's been your experience?
It's funny that you're even talking about this. I just went to the Patrick Bet David conference and Tony Robbins was there.
Mm.
And they brought this up in front of, like, because all these salespeople go typically, and they brought this up. I bet, and for every industry, it was typically sales. Yeah, it was sales. Everybody's dealing with the same situation right now. Are these people want to work at home? So for us, what we're doing, we're trying to adapt. So even when we recruit, right? When we recruit, we used to do a lot of it face to face. So we'll start online. We'll start there to do the informational. And what I mean by recruiting is that's how we hire. We'll do it as, like, I hate to say the cattle call, but it gives everybody the opportunity to hear what we do. So we've kind of shifted to the online to see how that works, which has worked out better. So this way we can kind of say from the beginning, set the expectation. Yes, we're doing this via online, but this is an in-person position. When people come in, the bottom line is if people have a thriving culture and they're happy and they're making money and they're in an environment that they feel like they have growth, you still have the ability to grow. And while it is a little bit tougher, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to sit here and sugarcoat, oh yeah, we're just doing so great. People are knocking on our doors to sell health insurance. They're not. But if you can show them the light at the end of the tunnel, and anything in life worth having, you have to work hard for it. You have to. And so it's just the transparency. And we kind of show them from the way beginning, this is what it looks like working in office. If you get to a point where you're moving and grooving by yourself after you have full training, you can kind of move to that remote situation. But for the time being, your most successful time is going to be in office.
So my takeaway there, and it's interesting that you were at the conference. I was supposed to go to that conference, actually.
It was worth it. It was great. It was a great conference, great refresher. But I think everybody is dealing with the same thing. People wanting this theory. I call it a theory because I don't think it's a real thing. The work-life balance. I don't
Mhm.
think that exists. And all of a sudden, everybody wants quality of life, and I want to spend more time with my children, and I want to be home. And I think it sounds great in theory, but I don't think it's realistic if you're a go-getter and you want to start a business.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that because I'm pretty sure we're
A
probably
little controversial.
pretty aligned on this. But I want to go back to, so you really kind of framed out to me what was like I put in the bucket of, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but in my brain I put it in the bucket of like team building, recruiting, kind of building that team. And the three things that I heard you talk about were culture, creating the right culture, making, having employees happy, and then providing an opportunity for their growth.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
you kind of seem to indicate that, it's not like, I think you mentioned people aren't knocking down our doors to come and sell health insurance. And so obviously, probably a difficult environment to recruit into. What are you guys doing? What are your kind of tips? What are your tricks when it comes to, growth? What would you do in there? How are you impacting culture? What does that look like for you guys? I'm curious, like, to find out somebody who's had so much success at building teams. Where are the nuggets in there?
Sure. So there's a few components to that. So the first part is on growth. How are we able to kind of overcome the objection of not wanting to thrive or not wanting to come into the health insurance industry? And honestly, I don't know anybody that grew up wanting to be a health insurance agent, myself included. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So when I'm doing my recruiting pitch, right, when I'm bringing everybody in, honestly, from the way beginning, I'm very transparent. It's not weird. I make a joke. I kind of break the ice from the way beginning. I even address, I'm like, listen, if you're sitting here and you're looking at me thinking how this chick can be successful, I hope you are, because here's how you do it. So it's really just kind of addressing it, and then addressing all the elephants in the room and being completely transparent so people don't feel like they're getting involved in another pyramid scheme. So it's taking all of that out, right? That's the first way. The other part of it is organic growth. Anybody that you know, family and friends, we're not doing like, give me all your family and friends. That's not what we're doing. It's a nonchalant thing. Whether we're incentivizing the agents to bring in their family and friends, anybody that would fit it, whether it's a Friday meeting, they can bring them in, a team event. So we're doing things to entice culture. Strong social media. Social media is huge. And for someone like me that is seasoned, I don't like older, but seasoned, social media has really been a huge outlet. So we have a lot of a lot of not propaganda, but we have a lot of outlet to get out to other people to have better reach. So we're running meta ads on top of that. And I would say on that part, it's acquainting yourself with the times. So, my agents right now, my leaders, they're young. They're a lot younger than I was. Because when I started, I was the youngest and hottest. I was the youngest person in the bit. I was the youngest person. Now I'm the oldest person. So adapting to times and what's attractive to younger people. So I hope that's a lot. So I talked about, making it, just being transparent, then talk about the social media aspect. We do run meta ads, and then we have an incentive to bring in organic growth. So that's how we're doing our recruiting. And then the other part of that, you were asking me about, how to overcome people wanting to do health insurance. I mean, there's residual income. That's the biggest thing. You're looking at your long-term game. So if you're looking to build uncapped income potential, you're looking for long-term wealth and growth, then you can absolutely do that here. So there's a lot. So that's how we're doing it. It's just a lot of honesty and just getting out there through social media and resumes.
So when I kind of take this out, and for the listener, like and actually for myself, it's the first part of that was, you talked about family. So, and I kind of also put that in the referral bucket. Like if you're out, anybody who here is listening to what Mara is saying, it's this, to me, it sounds like there's this relentless, consistent approach to growing your business.
Yes. You're constantly selling. Always, what do they say? ABC, always be closing. It's a constant conversation. I'm telling everybody that I know in my life works in this bit. Even my ex-husband and my husband. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. My mom works, and my mom does stuff for me. My sister-in-law's worked. Everybody close to me has worked in this field. And why wouldn't you want to offer that to somebody if you're doing well with it and you know that there is uncapped income potential, unlimited growth? You can be your own boss. You're in business for yourself, not by yourself. Why would you not want to bring in people, your Uber driver that you see is struggling, or your server that did an incredible job? It really is endless. So it's constantly, I'm never off. If I see somebody that could fit the mold of what I'm looking for, I'm going to continuously go out there, try to talk to them and grow my business.
Okay.
Hopefully that's helpful.
No, it's so helpful. Like, it's so good because I think people forget, like, I love the ABC, always be closing. So people get into their business, and especially business owners, they start to think about operations. They start to think about strategy, risk, this, that, the other thing. And what they forget about is, and I'm probably I'm going to screw the name. I actually can't remember. It'll probably come to me, but I wanted to say Brian Tracy, but I think it was Bob Proctor, who said, nothing happens in a business until a sale is made. And so you've got to be out there selling, but there's these, these fundamentals that it sounds like you guys are building your business on is, going out there and finding referrals. So who do you know in your circle that whether you're selling health insurance, whether you're selling senior care,
Whatever
whether you're selling
doing.
landscaping, whether you're a restaurant, whatever it is, like whatever business that you're in, there are people that that can refer family, friends, that there's a whole referral network. And then there's your social media campaigns that, do you have and how consistent? And I'd love to chat with you maybe a little bit about, because I think you really know your social media stuff. Then there's, driving organic sales through your traditional methods of, going out prospecting for clients that might be, want your business and, using a CRM to manage that funnel. So, and then, the other thing that you talked about that hit home was these, what I put into the bucket is of compensation plans, like creating a compensation plan that really provides for like a potential residual income, which actually I kind of like, that's a really interesting distinction that I would make for listeners going, right now, do you have a compensation plan for your salespeople where you can create an opportunity for them to grow residual income, which will keep them in the business longer with you rather than looking to skip out? I think that's a really interesting distinction.
Or just come up with something that's enticing. Like there is residual income. That's just part of the comp plan. But on top of that, we also incentivize the agents because we know, let's just say, for instance, we know that an Indeed ad, if we run Indeed ads, it's going to cost us roughly, because we know the KPIs on it, about $500 to get one recruit. That's what it costs us to get one recruit up and running from the time that, we're doing the pitch to the time that we appoint them to our agency. It's about $500 to get one out of hundreds of resumes. So why not offer that on if I offer $500 to my agents that are in an organic recruit, here's the thing. When you bring in people that they have a better likelihood of getting through and being successful versus a resume. And the bottom line is if you're in any type of sales organization, the lifeblood of your organization is most likely recruiting. So if you're in a deficit or a rut or your numbers are backwards, and it happens to all of us. In fact, this is probably one of the worst sales year of my entire 17-year career. And I had to reevaluate my business plan. And I'm like, you know what? Forget all the nonsense. Forget the strategy. The strategy right now going forward is we're recruiting our way out of it. That's the lifeblood of our organization, because the more you fill your funnel, the more people you get in there, the more people that are selling the product, you're going to go ahead and you're going to take the deficit of what you're losing, and you'll compensate by the new people that you're getting in. So that should always be at the forefront.
And so that's interesting that you're saying, like, when you say this is the worst sales year you've had, does that mean that you aren't hitting your targets, or that your revenue is, say, less than last year, or you're seeing a decline in revenue? What would that look like for
My
you guys?
revenue I'll probably do about the same, which is okay, but I've never done the same. I've always far exceeded, but my growth as far as persons that are on my team have shrunk. So this is the worst, I'm telling you, the worst year I've ever had. But it comes down, there's a lot of mitigating factors, but bottom line is when it comes to the recruiting aspect and adding sales team members, the only way to increase the revenue and increase the writing base is to recruit. That's it. It's the lifeblood of any sales organization.
Yeah, you've got to have the seats in the bus filled.
You have to.
For sure.
You have to.
And then one thing that just kind of popped in my head as you were talking there is, like, once you have the seats filled, or the seats that you do have filled, what's the ongoing expectation / training / how do you guys really keep people, growing in their skill level, their psychology or mindset? What does that look like for you guys?
It's funny that you brought up Bob Proctor. It's actually really funny that you even said that name. Bob Proctor was probably the first sales, like, self-development person I'd ever listened to. And this was about 7-8 years ago. I remember my mentor, who's the one actually that hit $1 billion. She introduced this on a leaders call, this Bob Proctor, this whole thing. And I'm thinking to I was like, this girl's crazy. Like, what are we doing? Is this a book club? Like, what is going on here? So my point is number one, personal development's a big aspect of our business. I just told you about the Patrick Bet David conference, but I didn't just go. I brought 50 agents and leaders with me as well. So we're trying to constantly get these guys to evolve. That's a big thing. Once they come in, our mission, we have a vested interest. We need them to be successful in order for us to be successful. So we teach them from the way beginning, whether it's the agent or the leader, is that our culture specifically in our company is agent is king. So we want to make sure that the agent has the most optimal experience from the time that they get in, from the time that they start writing business, all the way up into leadership. So that's a big, big, big part of it. I would say the other part of it, and I talked about, it's the evolution of the industry, and not just like it's evolution of everything. AI is huge right now. So we've incorporated AI into our business. I talked about social media. Social media has been a big thing. This generation, I have to say, this Gen Z, my kids' generation, this is something crazy. These kids are insane. So it's they're insane. I've never, it's the relatability factor. Like I said, I was the youngest, now I'm the oldest. So it's constantly trying to relate to them because we want to develop, typically the agents are younger and we're trying to develop a more seasoned, more responsible and mature person. And they look at it as a career, not a job, but a career. So we try to get them from the way beginning to start looking at KPIs. That's probably not something that a 20-year-old is looking at, right? We want to look at the ROIs, the return on investment. We're teaching them from the way beginning, the tracking. We're holding them more accountable. Well, yes, I know they're 1099 and I know the whole thing is the freedom to do what they want. But look, if you have children, do you have children? You have children,
I do,
right?
yeah.
So children need structure. Same thing with the age, any type of people that coming, they
I
need
need
structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So if you're running amok and you're just looking to fill your hierarchy and you have no vested interest, then do whatever you want. But if you want an environment where you're having success, you're having return, because that's what you want, retention, you want to retain them. Why would you put so much time and money, not retain them? You got to have structure. So we started implementing structure. Now we can't mandate, we call them best practices because there's 1099 laws, but we have a complete structural system to where everybody in every single one of my offices, even Vegas, they start at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So that's 5 a.m. Vegas time. So it's pretty that there's structured training. We have that. Now we have the Google Classroom that we never, because we were doing it before when I started, we were just doing a big round table. Everybody was around the round table. We were listening to them on the phones, but now it's so much, the business has evolved so much that now there's so many organizational tools. And it's crazy that people are like, oh, I'm not making money, I'm not successful. But literally ChatGPT it can lay out your success plan for you. We never had, when I started 17 years ago, we didn't have that. We were winging it left and right. We were driving appointment to appointment, just trying to do the best we can. We were listening to the Bob Proctor a few years later, like trying to figure it out. But now it's all figured out for you. And we try to implement it from the way beginning into our business. Same thing with mindset. There's tons of podcasts. People should be listening to your podcast. And you better believe I'm going to suggest for my agents to listen to your podcast, because what does it talk about? It's intentionality and being purposeful. When they're in the office, that is the biggest thing that we try to stress to them is you're already here and they're working 12 hours a day. I mean, they're going 8 to 8. So what are you doing for 12 hours? You're not dialing for 12 hours, but what you can do is you can go ahead and broaden what you're looking at, broaden your horizons, be intentional, be purposeful, and start listening and doing things that are intentional towards your business. So I don't know if that helps, but I'm like on this whole kick. When you asked me about this, I'm like on this whole, can you tell I'm like super passionate about
which I love, right?
To do.
I mean, I love that. I mean, obviously, you've done this, and so you were very successful at it, and you know the secret sauce to it. I'm curious, like out of that, like, and there was a lot in there, and a lot of it was like really around culture, and creating that environment. Obviously, that you guys are doing something that people are buying into, to be working 12 hours a day and really driving and all that kind of stuff. I'm curious on the recruiting side, like how do you find that? And then, and if you think you got it, but you don't, what's the decision making to, clean the team up, or like, what does that all look like for you from a recruiting perspective and identifying the right candidate for your sales teams?
Well, we never know who's going to be a right candidate. I can tell you ideally what we're looking for. We're looking for young men. That's who we're looking for. Ages probably 20, or I would even say it would typically be about 20, 21 to max 35 that have no wife, no kids, no fish, no dogs, none of that. That's our idea. This is our ideal candidate.
Right.
But that's a perfect world. But the reality, you never know. Because if somebody categorized me like that, obviously I just said male, I would never be doing this. But they kind of weed themselves out. For us, you have to get licensed. So if they can't get their license in Florida, especially in Florida, it's the easiest to get. They can't get their license in 2 weeks, then this is not a fit. So we have, talking about evolving, now we have policies and procedures on the front end that if they can't do X, Y, and Z in a 2-week time frame, then we're probably going to part ways with them. So it's from the way beginning, we're identifying. We'll give you a shot, if you interview well, and if not everybody's, and look, not taking everybody in. I want to be clear on that. But if you interview well and you can get through that part, the next part is you got to meet the standards, the minimum standards of whatever. And every office differs. So it's not just, but there is like a 2 week, really, there's a 2 week period of where they'll determine whether this person is fit for the career going forward.
Yeah, and how do you monitor that? Like, 2 weeks, there's obviously a benchmark, and then is there, because when you said that, I kind of reflect on my own past and go, I think there's a lot of times where I was probably too easy on the training. I wanted to really
There's a gray
focus on
area.
culture. Yeah, like so.
There definitely is, but here's what's happened in our business specifically is the amount of revenue that it takes money out of our pockets, because it's usually a shared responsibility. So this is the way it works. We have an agent that comes in, okay? So here we are, we have agent 1, okay, or agent X, and we want to get them through to what we call convert them into making money. It costs the entire hierarchy because we split the cost. So here's another nugget is if you're not investing in your business, then you're probably not going to be successful. So this is a whole leadership role from the top all the way down. I contribute. I still contribute. So I have a whole tier that's contributing to this agent to becoming successful. So we know that it costs us minimum to get an agent started, minimum just with license, everything. I would say it costs us minimum $3,000 to $5,000 between lead costs, between, the dinners and whatever. It's about $3,000 to $5,000 to get them states, all of it. That's what it costs. Okay.
Yep.
So from the way beginning and now, again, evolution of times, we had to track, like we couldn't just throw our money into everybody. So now from the way as they're coming in, if they can't get in there and do what they need to do within that maybe 3 week time period, we're not going to do the investment anymore. So it's tightening it up. It really is, because the caliber of people, again, are not the same. So the standard, which like you, I was not always great with, because I was like, oh, it's okay. We'll just let them slide through. But it's being really setting the standard and the precedence from the way beginning. And we've come a long way, but now because of the cost involved, we set a precise, clear expectation as soon as they come in from the beginning.
Yeah, see, that's
Clear
powerful.
training schedule. It's not willy-nilly. It's all right now. It's all, because I know how it was when I first started. It was just kind of up in the air. I'll train you when you can. You could sit there and watch me. Now everything is tracked from the way beginning. So I think what happens with sales organizations, especially older sales organizations, is that whoever's running the deal is not evolving with the times. And I'm guilty of it too. So the evolution, even me, I'm still a student learning what works versus what doesn't work. I'm thinking, let's still do the round table discuss, the round table ring, ring, ring. But that's not realistic either. So it's adapting to what's applicable now. And now it's with structure and having everything drawn out, time frames, and just being really strict on the expectation from the way beginning.
Is there a consistent basis that you, or like a battle rhythm where you review the training process and revamp it or tweak it a little bit? Like, is that a yearly thing, a quarterly thing? How
I
do you
think it's
guys look at
as you
that?
go thing. I mean, we can
Is it?
kind of see as the times are evolving, we're kind of just moving up with it. Google Classroom was a big thing a few years ago, but now, you know what? That's not the big thing anymore. It's not a Google Classroom. It's like a video thing where they can go in and they can take tests at the end. So it's, as everything starts to evolve, those are the new things. And luckily, I am not the brains by any sort of like that is not my forte. My husband, who is really the brains of the operation, he is completely aware of what's going on with technology. So as soon as he sees something new in the tech world, whether it's leads or a new CRM or whatever it is, he's constantly going to different conventions. So that's another big thing. Get involved in these conventions, because I know for every organization they have them all over. Get involved, see what's going on. My husband goes to lead conventions. We were just at one actually in Chicago. I don't go to them, he goes, but hire for what you're not good at. So he's good at that. But so anything that's new in the tech world, we're implementing. And AI is huge. And now we have AI, go figure, in the health insurance industry, we're implementing AI.
Lot there. I do want to circle back to the AI for sure. That was one of the things that was on my list, and social media still is on my list. But we keep on digging deeper and deeper.
There's just a lot going on. It's just funny.
This is amazing. But the one point that you made that I think is probably worth reiterating. And if you have anything to add on to it, I'd love to hear it, which is, you'd made the comment of like, you've got to invest in your business. And I think that when people, especially right now, like we talked about at the very beginning of the podcast, which was like, there's this drop in revenue, there's a level of, I'll call it anywhere from slight anxiety or slight like caution or to fear, all out fear of, hey, what's going to happen? And people start to close up their wallets and they stop investing in their people and they stop, investing in culture, and they look for ways to save money because they think saving, 10 or 20 bucks over here is going to be the thing that saves their business. And I think like one of the things that you're really highlighting is this, like this investment in learning, this investment in training, a commitment to it as well, like not just the dollar investment, but the commitment and coupling it with like strict adherence to certain metrics and accomplishments throughout the whole process. And is there anything else that you'd add to that? Because I think this is a really key point, especially to a lot of people who have like small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah, I would say, amongst that, I've been guilty of like throwing money at the wind. But number one, scared money don't make money. That I learned very early on is you can't always, but I also don't think that you can throw the money, just kind of throw money at everything either. That's not always the fixer. So be careful on that, because some people, which I've been guilty of, is just kind of throwing the money at the problem and not rolling my sleeves up and getting in there to see what the issue is. And I will say that is part of what happened this year with the recruiting is I recruited for years and I kind of took a step back. The recruiting started to fall. And until I literally went in there, rolled my sleeves up, saw what was going on, saw the resumes, saw the pitching of what everybody else was doing, looking at everybody's process. So a big lesson for me this year is inspect what you expect. And if you don't do that, because sometimes you think they got it, they don't got it. You think they have, and nobody's you. So a big part of salespeople are very eccentric people. They're very emotional people. They are very, they're a lot, salespeople. So it's knowing
they're hard to manage. That's for sure.
Yes, it's knowing your salespeople and their love language and how to handle that, see what's going on in your business. So sometimes, you have to take a step back, which is hard because there's a lot of egos involved, me included, and take a look back and be like, okay, yeah, things are dropped. There's controllables. There's things that are not controllables. And then there's things that are controllables. And the things that you can control are little things. You don't have to spend a lot of money to create a thriving culture. You don't. You can it can be super small as a text to somebody like, hey, I see you. You did a great job. Having something in your sales meeting, make sure that your sales meetings are hyped up and they're energetic and you're bringing in new ideas. So people want to feel heard. So maybe if you're, the things are down, go back to the people, see what's going on. That's a big thing. I went back to see what was going on with my salespeople. What's going on with my leaders? Is it an investment problem? Is it a personality problem? And then maybe sometimes you have to do a clean sweep, which we had to do. People aren't in the right positions, and that's okay too. There's a better position elsewhere, maybe not within your organization. So there's a lot to it.
Look, it's some of these things that you're saying right now, they're so relevant, because and I was going to go back to this conversation that we had, and I don't, somehow this, I guess, is becoming a theme to this kind of conversation. And I haven't actually had, I don't think, to this level on the podcast yet, but it's, people were scaling their business because of COVID in certain industries. Some industries not scaling.
I get it. We had to do it too, but there's some things you scale back on and some things that you don't. And if something is the lifeblood of your organization, like for us, recruiting, we did pull funds other places. So maybe we're not doing, the Louis Vuitton belts anymore, or we're not doing, something like that. But that money we didn't just scale back and say, we're not going to open our wallets. We said, all right, let's take a deeper dive and see what the problem is. The problem is we're not recruiting enough. So we stuck a lot of money into meta ads. That's a big thing. And we're doing really well off the meta ads. So it's kind of reevaluating where you're putting your funds and who you're putting it in with. Maybe you have, I don't, maybe you have something in the organ, maybe you have an admin that's not as techie or not doing what they need to do. Maybe that admin has to go because now they need to be responsible for more things. So I would say, yes, I understand the scaling, but I would also say when the scaling comes, maybe just redirect your funds.
Well, and then like it sounded to me like you're like redirecting some what I would maybe classify as like energy when you made the comment of inspect what you expect. It's like, what would you say like has been the biggest distinction from having to go back in, roll up your sleeves, and to your words, inspect what you expect? Like, what was the biggest takeaways and things you'd maybe do over again if you had another opportunity to do it twice?
I cut the bullshit out. No, I don't even know if I could say that.
It's a good way to say it. It's
But
a great way to say it.
it's funny because all these things happened this year, hence why. And again, like I had to own it. I'm running the organization. I'm at the head of the organization. And yes, I could easily sit back easily and say, forget it. I've made a lot of money. I have a lot of residual income. I'm good. But what am I doing? What's the purpose? Number one, my purpose is to make sure that I positively impact every single person that I meet. That's a huge thing for me. I stay because of the people. I love the people. I know people, a lot of my leaders are like, I like the money. I like the people. I do have a vested interest. So I would say the biggest thing that I should have done is once I saw the behavior and I saw things that weren't going the way that I know that a business should run, I should have cut it 2 years ago instead of standing on the sidelines and watching it implode. And the writing was on the walls. I mean, I should have taken action instead of saying, unfortunately with me, my heart overrules my head. It's a double-edged sword. But instead of thinking like, oh, they have a family, or, oh, we can't do this, I should have from the way beginning said, this is what we're doing. And if you can't do it, then you can't stay because you're impacting the people that are underneath you.
And would there be like with the the vastness of your organization, do you think like if you look back on it, is there a process or a position inside the org chart that you maybe could have filled in there based on hindsight to help you manage or see and bring attention to some of those issues that kind of popped up?
I think I should have just played a bigger role in what I do. And that was lead from the front. I wasn't inspecting what I expect. I wasn't following back up. I wasn't checking the recruiting stuff. I wasn't doing the right things that I know can run a business. I trusted that my leaders have it. And while you do have to let go and you have to trust that they can do it because you can't do it all yourself and delegate. But the minute that I saw the discrepancy, that's when I should have jumped in and said, okay, here's what we're doing and taking control of it. And I think a lot of times when the higher up you go, you start delegating, you become a little disassociated from what's going on. And, you're focusing on the other things in the business. But, the truth is that the only thing I know about this business is I know about the people. It's a people oriented business. That's all I know. I promise you, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. There's nothing wonderful about me other than my connection with people. And once I saw that the connection was going away, I should have gotten in there quicker to make sure that the connection was stronger. So the people had somebody to believe in versus what was going on. And I didn't do it.
Well, listen, kudos to you for, taking that approach, number one. And I think I would say to the audience, it's like, if there's something going wrong in your business or you feel like things are not connecting 100%, there's a good chance that there's something you're not seeing or not acting on. You may be seeing it and not acting on it. And, Mara is an amazing example of like servant leadership is kind of the I would call it, in owning your own shit. And so there's, I just had this conversation with a business owner. I bet you 2 weeks ago, we were at a conference and he was talking to us about almost about this exact conversation, really, how his sales process was, not growing and there was problems and da, 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 da. And we were digging in on the, just in the conversation and just in a general conversation, wasn't an interview or anything. We were just chatting. And the more like I asked this guy about his business, you could see like he had scaled up, the business had grown, he put things in place, and then it was so obvious he stopped looking, under the hood to see exactly what was going on. And so thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. It's
It's
like,
owning it. Look, it's hard. I've had many moments in my career where you have this, this epiphany or introspective moment where you're like, oh shit, like it is, it's not everybody else. Like at some point, especially being the leader of the organization, you got to own it, man. Like you have to own it and then get in there. You can't just present one of my leaders said it to me on a call. He's like, you present the problem, but why are you not telling us the solution? We're looking to you. You're telling us the problem. Well, where's the solution, Mara? And when he said that to me in front of everybody, I was mortified. I'm like, what? Like, what? But you know what? It made me look introspective and say, you're right. I'm just giving you the problem, but I'm not even giving you a solution. So when you're presenting the problems, you got to come with some kind of plan on how you're going to get it back on track. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's really hard. But at some point, it can't be everybody else. It's you.
you just mentioned, I think the words were, I've had oh shit epiphanies in my in my career. What are some of those, just out of curiosity, since you brought it up?
So the first one was when I first started. I didn't make money in this business for 6 months. I was probably the worst insurance agent that ever lived. I was horrible. I really was awful, but I wasn't fully bought in. I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, still thinking I was going to go to law school. So I wasn't fully bought in. And then I remember I had set a date. Like if I can't sell this appointment, I'm done. Like I'm absolutely done. This is it. So I drive, because at that time we were driving to appointments. I drive 45 minutes to this appointment, and I go there, knock on the door, and this guy opens the door, and he was completely uninsurable. I'm like, oh God. And at that time we were getting checks. Like if you get the check, you got the sale. So I'm like, oh God, what can I do with this guy? Then the wife comes. I'm like, I'll get the wife. The wife was worse. I'm like, oh. So I walk away, no check. My pride is gone. My ego is like, forget that. And I call my mentor and I'm like, Trina, I'm done. And she's like, okay, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm just done. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is not working for me. I have the baby at home. I haven't made money. So she's like, okay, well, let's run through the sale real quick. And I'm like, okay. She's like, Mara, do you know the appointment's 45 minutes away? I'm like, no. She's like, okay. Mara, did you pre-qualify them before you went? No, didn't do that either. She's like, did you check the husband and the wife? No, didn't do that. So I did nothing of all the protocols, and I hang up the phone so mad because I have so much pride. And I look in the mirror, the rear view mirror. So I'm looking and I'm like, shit, it's not everybody else. It's me. I'm not 100% bought in. At that time, we were completely desolate. So, kind of desperate. That commission breath was there. So I'm trying to get anything I possibly can. And that was it. That everything changed in the next 6 months. I made $92,000. So I went from making nothing to almost 100,000 in that 6 months. That
Wow.
was the biggest turning point in my career. Yeah.
Congratulations, first off.
Thank you.
Um, Look, I think that if we're talking to, there's the mass majority of salespeople or business owners have been in some type of situation like that, where whatever it might be, but where they're like faced with a situation of, I've got to make this work. But I love that, like you said, like the realization of, I was 1 foot in and 1 foot out. What was there's a point when you realize something, but then there's a subsequent series of actions that are required beyond that. If you don't mind me asking, could you identify what some of those were? Were there habits that you changed? Was there a process that you changed? Was there like, so I get the commitment, and all of a sudden it's like, fuck, this is me. Like, this isn't about, the mindset changes. And then was there some tactical things that you had to involve?
Well, number one, at that time, I mean, my back was kind of up against the wall. So a little different than some people. I had to make money. Like there was no money coming in. So there
You
was a
guys are
lot at stake.
dead broke at this time, right?
Dead completely. I'm talking like house was gone. It was foreclosed on. Cars were getting repoed. I mean, it was quick. It was quick. It was like 6 months. My ex-husband was losing everything. We were begging and borrowing from everybody we knew. I mean, we were literally trying to stay above water at this point. And when this epiphany happens, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not smarter than the next part. Like, I'm not as smart as my mentor. She's doing really well and she's making money. So let me follow what she's doing and everybody else is doing that is making money. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter that I had a master's degree. It didn't matter that I thought that I was better at being a lawyer than a sales. It didn't matter at that point. So once I realized that there were people that can do better than me, I went to go sit next to them. They became my best friends till today. They're my best friends because your friends are your mirrors. They say, and it's not just a cliche. The people who you hang out with are, what do they say? The fraction of the income you make is due to the people that you hang out with. So I knew these girls were making a lot of money. They became my best friends. I saw what they were doing. They were phenomenal at their craft, and I just perfected the craft and got really good at it. So I did really, really well with sales, got very good on the phones. And that was like the first of it. There was another epiphany later on, but that was the recruiting aspect. And I'm like, shit, I can relate to people. Oh my God, this works out well too. So let me perfect the pitch and see what, I could see people are bought into me. So let me make it even more appealing. Then I perfected that. So each part of my career that started to evolve, whether it was the sales side or the recruiting side or even the leadership side, it just came from emulating people that were actually doing it. I wasn't following the ones that weren't doing it, or I was seeking help. I've had a business coach. What do they say? The best kept secrets are in books. So I know that's cheesy, but it's true. I'm not much of a reader at all, but it's true. John Maxwell became a great friend, not real friend, but a book friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So there was, you're always searching for something. And I think I really do believe that as long as you take the mentality that you're always a student, then that is going to help, especially in the times that things become stagnant. And if you're the most wealthy person in the room or you're the smartest person in the room, then you got to get out of that room, get out of it, because you're not. There's other rooms to get in.
That's good advice. Take that one down, guys. I just want to go back to the sales thing because I feel like there's some real nuggets in here from a sales side of this process. I did actually write down three kind of, and maybe there were three transformations. Maybe they were just like the levels that you had to get to, but you mastered sales, mastered recruiting, and then mastered leadership. I'm using that word. You didn't use the word master, but I believe that you probably have done that. And or in the pursuit of mastery, as I always call it. But the sales stuff. So you realize like, okay, I'm 1 foot in, I'm 1 foot out. I've got to be committed to this. You're probably not even doing it because you really want to do it or be there, but you're broke and you're your last resort. I'm just trying to I'm trying to imagine where your mindset was at the time where it's like,
it wasn't
fuck,
what, when it didn't become so much about that stigma of selling health insurance. I think that was it for me too. Like, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a health insurance agent. I mean, that doesn't sound really sexy at all. That sounds kind of horrible, especially coming from a family where my trajectory was written out for me to become a lawyer. That's really what I thought I was going to do. And I think I had a hard time really having this deep conversation with myself. Like, that's not what's happening right now. And once I realized that it wasn't about health insurance sales, it had nothing to, it was about helping people, it was nice. I loved it. And then for me, that I'm super competitive. So like then the high of being competitive, and then you get to become a great producer. And then, if your company, our company at that time, we had all kinds of awards. So it was setting different goals that I could attain. Again, not even really dealing with the health insurance. I'm just competitive. So I wanted to be the best at what I was doing. And I was able to do that and, kind of take all that energy and put it in a positive light and start, going in the direction of whatever goal I was trying to hit. So I would say number one for the sales is find a goal, that you can't just shoot in the breeze over here. Have a goal, whatever that goal is. We laugh, like what we try to do is we call it a kill list. So we'll try to get, for the team, for our different teams or whoever at that time was a producer, I was trying to get to, I would try to overcome number 45 in the company, number 30. So I was trying to hit the goals just internally, not even goals that were made by just something that I wanted to do. So it didn't become about health insurance and going to appointments. It was really about just trying to get to the next goal and seeing how far I can get with that. And then the money came later. So that was a big thing too. I'm not money driven. I've never been money driven. If you're doing something for money, it's not going to work. You have to have a bigger why than that. For me, at first, it was, obviously it's always my kids. That's an easy one. That is without a doubt. So my kids, 100%, they're my why. But there was more to it. Like, it was more about the competitiveness. It was proving something to myself. It was showing my self-worth. And you know what? It allowed me to develop into into a person that came from a lot of insecurities to someone that was really sure in themselves and taking a chance. I come from a family where there's a lot of professionals, and that was just the family that I came from. And to be a salesperson was very cliche. So, I think another part of it was just kind of proving to myself that I can make it in this world. And then later, I didn't even realize it was male dominated, but that became a part of it too. I'm a fierce female in a male dominated industry. So there was a lot that changed in my mind, and I stuck with it. A lot of salespeople, they jump from place to place before they perfect their craft and what they're doing. And I think the bottom line is everything is hard. It's not physically hard to do sales, but mentally you're going to get beat up. And I'll tell you, you'll definitely get the school of hard knocks through sales. You'll learn a lot about people through it. So there was a lot that came from it. It wasn't just about health insurance. It really was. I began to evolve and mature. It's the only it's the only career I've ever had in my adult life. I've never had another career other than this.
You talked about insecurity and moving to confidence. How much of that was part of it? And then
I think most of it was. I think a lot of it came from once I became very confident and sure of myself, that's when there was a big shift, huge shift.
And did confidence come because you had talked about meaning, right? Which was like the meaning of the children, but then the meaning of helping people. Like, I think to myself, like, fuck, would I rather be a lawyer or would I rather be helping people with their future health insurance? Because health insurance in the US, like I'm Canadian. I live most of my time in the US now, but it's so different. But like our healthcare, Americans are like, oh my God, I wish we had your healthcare. I'm like, you do not want our healthcare. Like, you could be 20 minutes for the ambulance to come and get you. I just had a friend that spent 3 days in a hallway of an emergency room with a cancer diagnosis. It's like, it is awful down here or up here. And we need an overhaul. We need to, like, we're in trouble. But I don't want to get, political and all that kind of stuff. But you talked about this, like, this meaning, and that kind of really hit me. So I was curious what created, like, there was a lot of things that, the competition part of thing. And I wrote the word gamification of, like, in terms of the goals, like, that's what I kind of heard was like, you were competing to be 45th and 37th. And then it's like that gamification. And it's like, I put myself in the position of listeners or owners of businesses. When I hear that stuff, it's like, the question I ask myself is like, how many of our listeners are gamifying their goal process with their salespeople? Well, with all their people, but if we're talking about sales, it's like, guys, are you really gamifying this? Like, have you, and it's like, well, I only have 2 sales reps. Okay, well, go to your competition and create a goal gamification, competition, and see if all boats rise when you're working towards a common goal or you're making your people feel good. So it was just kind of some stuff that kind of resonated with me when you literally, like, that was a mic drop in sales, articulating the process of developing a salesperson.
Yeah, it's not easy. Look, it's not easy. It starts from, I think, a lot of these sales, because I get them really early. Like I said, they come in, especially the young. Those are my favorite, the young ones. I love them with no sales experience. They come in, they're so green, so naive. My nephew is in the business now. My nephew is he's 19, 20, and I just watch his theory on life, right? I just watch him and how he operates, and it's just funny in the last year to see him evolve into like a more mature, more very confident. He's very sure of himself. The way he speaks, even before he speaks slumped over, and we tell them, put your, speak with confidence, say it with your chest, and you can see like the change in him. And for salespeople, I just think it all comes down to confidence. That's what it comes down to, knowing what you're talking about. People are buying. Yes, they buy the product, but they're buying you. and you can fake it till you make it. You really can. But when it comes, it's not cockiness, it's confidence and speaking with the knowledge and understanding the people that you're serving. But I think at the end of the day, look, at sales, people are moved by different things. They're completely drawn and moved. And if you're the top of your organization, I really believe it's important to understand what moves your people, whether it's, recognition or money or, there's different there, there's 4 love language. There's different love. It's the same thing with salespeople. It's understanding them and understanding what gets them going. And you said it, like making it a team thing, a team goal. It can't be your goal. So like I realized it this year too. I do push weeks, right? I do these push weeks and I have my goal. My goal is whatever, let's just say it's 7 million for the week. But that's not everybody else's goal. And the agent can't, they can't resonate with the $7 million goal. There's no way they can resonate it. But I need everybody bought in, right? If I need this week to go because I'm pushing sales. So where does it come from? Can't come from the top. My goal is just not, it's not even reasonable for them. So it's getting everybody bought in on their level to make it one whole common goal. So that's a big thing in sales too. The goals have to be common, but they have to be realistic and everybody needs to be bought into the goal.
Yeah, I like too what you just said about the 5 love languages. I forget the author of that book, but if people haven't read it, it's probably worthwhile reading. And I don't know if they've ever written one for sales people. But
what is it? Words of affirmation, touch,
quality time spent, gifts, random acts of kindness.
Salespeople are the same exact way, whether it's like a pat on the back, a note, some recognition, doing something sweet for that salespeople, exactly the same thing, knowing what makes everybody tick.
You had mentioned product, like knowing your product, but if you're trying to develop confidence in a salesperson, what does that look like? What would be like the 2 or 3 or 4 things that you're like, I think you're right. Knowing your product is like, because at least then you can at least stand up and talk about it. And then you actually did talk about like posture.
Yep.
They've done lots of studies of like, if you stand in a power position, it increases hormonal levels.
Yes.
I think Harvard just released a study a couple of years ago on that. What other things would you kind of recommend to a salesperson?
I would say number 1, smiling for whatever reason. It works when you talk. So there's that. The big thing that I really try to push is the way that you look and the way that you dress. So if you come looking like a schlub, you're going to perform like a schlub. And even though it's over the phone, I want these guys dressed up because that dictates, I know for me, when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you do good. If they're coming in sweatpants and they're schlubbed over and schlumped, then that's how they're going to perform, right? So that's part of it. I would say also perfecting your craft. So know your pitch. The biggest thing I would say now that we were missing was the role play. Go back and forth, role play, record yourself. Because if you don't sound good and you're not going to buy from you, nobody's going to buy from you. So, it's the way you look, the way that you speak. That's a big thing. And I would also say personal development. You have to do something like personal development. So it's something that's going to get your day going in the right direction. We try to get these guys to go to the gym. In fact, it's funny, I created a 21-day challenge for my business, right? I did it based on that, the 21 things that I do, right? To get me going to be successful. So we created this whole challenge, which is like, it's out there somewhere, but just getting into the habit, even from making your bed, it's a win in the morning. All these things sound crazy, but that's all part of developing salespeople into getting into good habits. And then structure, they have to have structure. It's not a free for all. It doesn't work. Just like with kids, doesn't work. Got to have structure.
I love it. We're going to post actually I saw the 21 day challenge and when I was doing the research. And so we're going to I'll post that on our website so that anybody who wants to refer to it, it'll be available to you. You don't have to go out and look for it.
Yeah, it's cheesy, but it's kind of cheesy, but it definitely works. Like from the minute you wake up to, making your bed, to saying your daily affirmations, even to drinking water, that's important for your skin and for your well-being and the things that you put in your mouth. If you come in and you're eating carbs and pancakes and bagels in the morning, guess what's going to happen by noon? By noon, you're exhausted, you're tired. Getting into the gym, that's a big thing. We actually have a gym here in my building. We have a gym downstairs, and that's all done intentionally and purposefully.
Hey, everybody. Thanks very much for listening to that conversation with Mara Dorne. What a fantastic woman and just a baller in business. Like the accomplishments, the shifts, the growth, the transitions that she's created in her life to get where she is has just been amazing. And you don't want to miss next week's conversation with her, where we go deep about, confidence and insecurities and just like all kinds of stuff. It's a real wonderful conversation about, women in business as well, but also the perspective for men who are managing women. There's a lot going on there. So join us next week for the second conversation with Mara Dorne. Appreciate you guys being with us. Thank you so much for your support. We love you, and have an awesome week. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you being with us. If you found value in the show and know a friend or a coworker who could benefit from the conversation, please share the link via text or on social media. Remember, each share creates a ripple effect of knowledge and inspiration. We'll see you next week.
The views, information, or opinions expressed by guests during the Dwayne Kerrigan podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Dwayne Kerrigan and his affiliates. Dwayne Kerrigan or the Dwayne Kerrigan podcast is not responsible for and does not verify the accuracy of any of the information contained in the podcast series. The primary purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. Listeners are advised to consult with a qualified professional or specialist before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast.